As flowing water rises to its highest level, so can we, through guidance and good teaching, rise to our greatest potential. Welcome to Reflections, a program which balances the past and the present, and which will prepare us as we travel together into the 21st century. Now, sit down and relax. Get ready to call in with your questions and your comments, because we want to hear from you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host, Haja Habiba Shakir, and this is another edition of Reflections over www.usworld.tv, our newest internet TV station. We're very happy to have launched this station April the 2nd here in Atlanta, Georgia at the Waterdeen Muhammad Schools. And we surely hope that you will continue to watch the programming that comes on this station. We will have news, entertainment, sports, comedy, education, and many different program genres will be entertained on this station. So today we're going to talk with a young woman who is a member of our community here in Atlanta, Georgia. She's a young mother, wife, educator, poet, author, and so she has authored a couple of books and many poems, and we'd like for her to share with us some of her works. And her name is Sister Amir Rahman, and we'd like to welcome her with the greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you today?
Fine, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you very much.
The Unveiled. The Unveiled is a compilation of several short stories. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about some of these short stories that I've been so very happy to have read a few of them already and halfway through this. And then you also have a book of poems, In My Reflection, A Closer Look, which is very apropos since the name of this show is Reflections. Yeah, so not to say that she got that from our program, but it certainly is a good title of a book. So this is her book. And where can they get your books?
They can get them from arthurhouse.com, amazon.com, and barnesandnoble.com. And they also, if they want a signed book, they can get it from me by writing me through PayPal at Brown, BROWN _S HUGAR at hotmail.com. And they can PayPal me $15 to $20, and I will autograph the copy and send it back to them.
Great, great. So we wanted to make sure we let the audience know how you can get her work. So tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, your background, where you're from, and how you got into the writing field.
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I was brought up in the Dar Islam movement. My parents were converted to Islam when they were 18 and 19 years old. And actually, I've lived pretty much all over the United States. So I've had the pleasure to experience many different communities and many different fields that I've been in. Yes, I am a teacher. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years. I started substitute teaching probably when I was about 17, 18 years old. And after that, I grew a great love for teaching, and I began to teach in a lot of our Muslim schools. So right now I'm working for Camp Believers, which is based out of Atlanta Masjid, and I'm enjoying my work. The summer's almost over. We got 2 more weeks, but it still has been a pleasure. How did I get into writing? Wow. I started writing when I was younger. It was never like, you know, to become a writer. I didn't even think about it. So I wrote poetry, I would write short stories, I would tell stories to my sisters because I had 5 younger sisters. So it was always about entertaining them in the household. So I would tell them different stories, and they always seemed to like my stories. But I never thought about how other people would enjoy my stories. So a couple of years ago, I decided, I was like, you know what, I've been writing for so many years. When am I ever going to publish a book? And I think the first thing that clicked in that I would possibly publish a book was when my daughter came to me, and she had different books that she was reading, and I'm like, what are you reading? And I'm like, what is this junk, you know, that our children are reading today, and especially as Muslim children. I was like, wow, you know, there really isn't anything out there for our children. So I went into different bookstores looking for Islamic novels, looking for storybooks that were on the shelves of Barnes and Nobles and stores that my daughter liked to go to. And I was like, wow, we don't have any selection. So I kind of made it a mission to start writing Muslim novels and Muslim stories so that people could also know about our lives as Muslims, and that our children also, when they read our books, they can relate to the books, and that they have Muslim heroes, you know, because growing up, we didn't have Muslim heroes. There, you know, of course we had the Sahaba, but we didn't have people that we knew today, you know, people that we could relate back to. You know, when you're in school, they ask you, okay, who's your hero, who's your role model? All we can say usually is Malcolm X, which is good, or we're saying, just we giving off different names, but none of these people are Muslims, you know, and Muslims that are productive in our communities that give us, you know, just a nice sense of idea of who we are. So I decided, hey, I'm going to start writing. I'm going to, you know, start having my own books published, and hopefully that will spark something in all of us, you know, because we have many Muslim writers out there. Some of them, you know, they're not writing Muslim books, but they're writing other books. And I figured that, you know, someone needs to start the trend, and hopefully it will pass on, and then our young people will become writers also. I know a lot of young people who know how to write, but they never say, I want to be a writer or an illustrator. But I figured if I did it and it got out there and more children heard about it, that they will want to do it too.
Well, that certainly is the same attitude that it takes to be a visionary or a pioneer. And this is what we do at Talkware Productions. We know that it's not necessarily going to be for our generation, but the generation that comes behind us that will want to know the history of the community of the late Imam Warathuddin Muhammad, may Allah grant him paradise, and want to know, well, what did they do? And then get their inspiration from the DVDs and the internet TV station and the web pages that we have produced. And so you're right. They have to have these images and heroes to look up. So now, have you developed any particular heroes? Is there a hero or a heroine that you think you may duplicate or make other chapters or other books around? Is there anyone? Because I've read halfway and I just love your characters. I just love your characters, especially Aaliyah, the young African-American sister who found herself in the year. Tell us about that story. What and can she be a hero? We need more from Aaliyah.
Aaliyah is a hero. Aaliyah is a role model. She is everything that encompasses us as women. And I wanted that for my daughters because we need that. We need strong women who are showing us that you can be a Muslim woman and a businesswoman. You can be so many different things, and we can take leadership roles and still have a sense of self. And Aaliyah, is in the story, my story, Muslim Akas, and she is the heroine of that story. And I'm working right now on the second part of that story, which shows her continuous journey as a leader of people. And I just wanted to show our young girls that they can be leaders also. You know, there's so much to us that we don't know that's hidden deep inside of us, that all it takes is a spark, one voice to say, you can do it. In
her case, it was a war?
It was war. And Muslim Akas is a story based in 2015. For the last few years, as we all know, there's been a lot of Islamophobia, where people are, you know, the height of people fearing Islam is at a great level for us. So I thought about that, and I thought about what may be to come for us, you know, because I'm always thinking in the future of, okay, what's going to happen in 4 years? What's going to happen in 5 years? So I wanted to write a story that people weren't really talking about. They never talk about what could possibly happen if the heightened fear of Muslims in Islam goes to a great level. One small thing can spark a great tragedy amongst us. So Aaliyah, at the time in 2015, she's in school and the first bomb hits. And it's not a bomb from somewhere else, but it's a bomb inside America, on American soil from Americans. But no one knows exactly who set off the bomb, but it starts a complete series of events where Muslims are placed into concentration camps. And all Aaliyah wanted to originally do was get back home to her home, get back to see where her mother and father and her sisters and brothers were, but she never makes it. And it starts her journey to adulthood and her journey to growth and, finding out what was inside of her and remembering things that her father taught her over the years, survival skills, and to also give hope to the people that she was around. So she winds up leading an underground group of Muslims to safety. That was her mission, was to get these people to safety. And along the way, she was picking up so many other different Muslim stragglers and
from different Islamic backgrounds and ethnic groups, and that was interesting too, because many of them were not used to a woman being in leadership on that level, and so she was able to
really draw them in with her strength and her personality, because you got to remember she's 16, and how many 16-year-olds
so phenomenal the way you wrote that about her character.
Yeah, how many 16-year-olds can truly lead in that manner, because most of the kids today, they're thinking about video games and different things like that. But I wanted to show the thing that's deep inside of all of us, that one little seed that can grow into something, even bigger. And she did. Along the way, she picked up many different people. She had to negotiate with a lot of different, older grown men who were like, who are you? And they were like,
and it was believable because when I saw where you were going with that, I thought, no, a 16-year-old girl couldn't do these things. But then the way you showed the support around her, the younger siblings and friends of siblings and the twins. And I saw that their fear of circumstances is what she developed her strength, and that's how you built the character. Her character was on their weakness, and the way she felt she had to be strong for them was just genius.
Because when you're reading it, you do find like points where she's talking to herself, and she's like, "I am so scared, but if I'm afraid and I show that I'm afraid, what will happen to them? And we won't be able to get out of here." So she knew that she had to show strength, and she had to show faith, and she had to show hope to them so that they would strive harder to survive, because in those times people do become weakened and they may not want to push on, but she showed them how to push on, and that just shows really the power of strength. And I really believe in the power of faith and strength and hope and how that really drives people. So
we don't want to tell it all. We want you to get the book, The Unveiled. It's a compilation of short stories by Sister Amir Rahman. And then you wrote a nice story about a gentleman who was in love with a sister for many, many, many years, and the way you wove it made me think that he never got a chance to be with her. And as it turned out, I don't want to give away the ending, but it was just a journey. A brother was driving home, and you took hours and put it into words, all the thoughts and the weather conditions and his resting over at rest stops and then continued his story. Was just, what kind of background do you have for writing? Did you study that in college, or do you think it's just a gift?
It's actually just a gift. It's definitely a gift that Allah gave me. And once I started doing it and I saw how it drew people in, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize, because I'm writing the story, so you're not reading into it the way other people will read into it, or you're not seeing it the way other people see it. So I'm like, okay, I'm writing, but when other people give me feedback, I would have to go back and read it like, what did I say again? To find out what they were talking about. But a lot of times when I write, I like to portray the inner feelings that people have that people don't talk about or people don't display. And with that story about the brother, I wanted to show how Muslim men love. People don't talk about it, but they do love, and they love deeply, but it's not a topic. People shy away from it, but I wanted to show his experience for having a deep love for a woman and being truly dedicated to that love for her, and just his whole journey on, with a drive, and, all the interruptions, but he kept going back to the thoughts and the memories, how the memories just like filled him with happiness, and how he was smiling, and just, it was a great experience for him.
Yes, that's good, which leads me to my next question about family and marriage. Do you think that you would like to write a book about successful marriages and marriages that have used the principles of Scripture upon which to build, and then create novels from that theme?
I thought about that at one point. That probably will be a future project, because I do have many future projects that I do want to do that's concerning Muslims and Muslim lives, and developing and showing community and what I feel that makes community stronger. Because growing up as a Muslim, and I'm second generation, my children are third generation Muslims, and I would love that we would tell how we survive different things through faith, and how we go back to the Quran and to Hadiths to show us guidance in how we live our lives. And with marriage, if we just go back to the basics on how we are commanded to live our lives, we would have more fruitful marriages. So that's a thought, because other people have asked me about that, and like if they ask me advice about stuff, I'm like, well, take it back to the Quran, do this, that, and the other. Reflect on how you're reacting, to a situation.
With the high incidence of divorce
Yes.
in the United States and the world, and even among the Muslim community, that the divorce has been increasing. And so
definitely.
all the communities in the United States need examples and stories to be able to refer to of successful or happy marriages, and it certainly would be refreshing to have a story written by you from a Muslim Islamic perspective. So now you have a book here, In My Reflection, A Closer Look, and this is her book of poetry. Now, how do you go back and forth from poetry to novels, from poetry to novels? How do you, what kind of thinking does that take, or is that just easy for you to do?
It's very easy for me.
Okay, well, good. I want you to read some of these poems, pick some poems and read for us, and then pick a poem and tell us what it meant to you and how you came to put those words together. Because from what I understand of poets, unlike novelists, every poet is not a novelist, and vice versa. Every novelist is not necessarily a poet.
Yes.
So for you to be able to go back and forth between the genres, I'm really curious as to what motivated those poems for you.
I've been writing poetry forever. And recently I was like, wow, I have all these poems. I was like, I want to put it into a book, because I also perform poetry. I recently, within the last probably 5 months, I started performing poetry and sharing, because I used to just write it. Or it's like, oh, but we want to hear it. I'm like, you want to hear it? Why do you want to hear it? Can't you just read it?
Just read it.
Just read it here.
Yes.
But, even with people reading it, they're like, no, you want to hear how you sound when you're saying these words.
Well, because the spoken word has been elevated to such a high level of entertainment.
Yeah.
And it, starting back with Nikki Giovanni and moving up through the ranks of various, the woman who has the Pulitzer Prize, I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing, Maya Angelou, spoken word, and
I've always loved Maya Angelou.
And women of her ilk who speak with such pathos about life and life's experiences. And so when people say to you they want to hear that, you're writing it is one thing, but you're, as they say, spitting it or interpreting it is profound. So would you do us the honors of choosing a poem and then set it up for us as to its significance, and then perform it for us?
Okay, let's look real quick. Trying to find. All right. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do two. A benefactor of his love. I wrote it to speak.
And that's your camera.
That's my camera.
I want you to look right out there.
Benefactor of his love. I wrote it to speak about the love of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May blessings and peace be upon him. And I wanted to describe that love to people and just say to him and others what was in my heart. So this was a benefactor of his love. A benefactor of his love, the greatest love. If you see him in a dream, washes the hearts of the believers clean. Created from the Nur of the Rabbil Alameen, Ya Muzamil wa Yasin. Sorry. His name formed upon lips, the river of Kalthar at fingertips, the cup of union so many longing to just get a sip. From his eyes the tears of his Jamal drips. Ya Shahid, Ya Sahir, a gentle whisper in the ear, the name the heart yearns to hear. Ya Suraj, Ya Mustafa, the seal of the prophethood blessed by Allah. Salawat and salams be upon him, O benefactors of his love. The heart speaks in words that the lips cannot convey, the way the heart feels upon this day. Stacking of good and bad deeds, pray the soul he'll intercede. Ya Khalil, Ya Kareeb. A burden lifted, a message from Allah so gifted, and each remembrance of him is a removal of another sin. Ya Siraj, Ya Mustafa, the seal of the prophethood blessed by Allah. Salawat and salams be upon him, O benefactors of his love.
Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
Yes, that's beautiful.
So that was just me speaking about my love for him and, you know, us understanding how your love for him can lift all burdens, and just the yearning to see him on the day of judgment and be amongst his believers is such a powerful love, and I just wanted to express that, you know, to others. So that's the reason why I wrote that piece.
And I noticed that you use those Arabic words. Now, were those Arabic words
Those
to
are
describe?
Yes, those were attributes of him, of his attributes. And of course, I learned them when I was smaller. Just like you learn attributes of Allah, I had learned the attributes of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And so I wanted to add those to it, you know, to give more explanation of the love for him.
Okay, can you give us a couple of definitions of some of the names that you chose that come to you?
Mustafa was the name that people gave him due to his conduct for being trustworthy. And Ahmed was through his loyalty. So those were the names, you know. Muzamil, I'm trying to remember what Muzamil means.
And then you said Siraj, you said Jalil, and you had quite a few, and I thought it was interesting the way you made your poetry as well as his attributes to describe that poetry. I thought that was very good.
Thank you.
Very good, actually.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry about that. Go on to another poem, and if you think of some of the definition of those attributes, you can share it with us later.
Actually, this is a poem I wrote. A lot of the poems that I write are not all poems like for myself. I consider myself a poet of the people. So a lot of my poems are to bring awareness to our actions, awareness of how we treat others. So a lot of my poems are for other people. They're not like my personal experiences too much, but they all are, you know, from other people, or me listening to people tell stories about things that happened to them and me relating to it in some kind of way and saying, okay, well, I want to put that to words to put a message out there. So a lot of my poetry,
they can benefit from it.
Yeah, a lot of my poetry
like
is really like social awareness, economical awareness, physical awareness, spiritual awareness. All my poems are all about just being aware. I just want to turn that light on inside of people that they're like, okay, and reflect back on something and say, okay. And that's why I titled the book In My Reflection, because these are things that we all need to reflect upon, and these are things that I reflect upon, and I wanted to share it, you know, definitely share it with others. So I wrote a poem called Reflecting on How We Are Correcting. And I find that within our communities, we do a lot of bickering about things that really are not, you know, important. We have so many other things important, like our children's education and their futures. And we find ourselves trying to, I guess what people call it, check each other. And I'm like, why is it so necessary to check each other? But in the manner that we do it is a lot of times negative. It's not in a positive manner. And I had talked to one lady one time, and she told me it took her 10 years to become Muslim, because her husband was Muslim, but every time he would bring her around the Muslim ladies, they would do, talk so harshly to her that she couldn't see the beauty in Islam. So she continuously ran away from it. And I was like, wow, are we really, portraying that image when we have another sister who's sitting next to us, instead of, if I see you doing something I think may be wrong, because sometimes it's our personal opinions. It's not even really what's wrong. And it's something that we're doing that we think someone else should be doing. But maybe they're not on that level yet. Maybe you should allow them to grow and be on that spiritual level to even take on that task. So I wanted to, bring that awareness to us as a people, as, kind of reflect on how we're correcting each other and take a step back and ask yourself, how would Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace and blessing be upon him, say that to another person? Would he approach them harshly, or would he approach them with kindness? So I wrote this piece reflecting on how we are correcting. All right. A Muslim is one who is safe from another Muslim's hand and tongue. This is a lesson that I was taught since I was young, and some seem to have missed out on this lesson as they approach others with so much anger and aggression. And the problems that are propagated in our community is because we have lack of unity. And how can we be unified when there's so many laws and adabs that we don't abide? And correcting me, you say you are protecting me, but at the same time you're disrespecting me. And no one's saying that you can't correct, but do it in a way that's pleasing to Allah and His Prophet. And then you say to me that I'm rebellious to Islam, but the true fact is I'm rebellious to Islam. And yes, we know it's your duty, but do it in a way that reflects Islam's beauty. And then a man says to me that Islam is not a democracy. But when you talk, can you do it without an ounce of hypocrisy? If you came to me with an ayat or a dalal, instead of using words that are harsh and vile, I would gladly accept your words with a smile. And then you say to me that I do not have iman, faith, well, all the while you're acting like an agent of shaitan, causing dissension within the ranks. On my ears, your words are shooting blanks. And how can I sit back and not respond when your harsh words are causing another Muslim harm? And then you tell me to fear your wrath. To this I laugh. How can you put yourself on the same level as Allah? To you I say, A'udhu Billah, for the only wrath I fear is from Allah. And then you have the nerve to compare me to a kuffar, when I fear Allah and have submitted myself to Him. Each time you say this, it is you who incur another sin. So reflect on how you correct. Islam's beauty is what you should project. So be careful of what you say, for Allah is the final judge on Judgment Day.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Thank you.
Salam. Praise Allah. That is so important. And we all can point the thumb back at us instead of pointing the finger at someone else. That is so important.
It definitely is, because I always think about that even before I correct somebody. I'm like, well, maybe they don't know, and how do I want to approach this? And sometimes you can approach something slowly and correct your Muslim sister instead of feeling like, okay, I need to tell her right now, in this manner. If you befriend her and you teach her, it's more about teaching each other through our actions, because we all know we are images of each other. We are a reflection of each other.
That's true.
So if I see that you're doing something and I, do it around you the correct way, what normally happens, you began to do it the correct way instead of me just saying something,
telling you. Yeah. So, and really, it's our human nature not to really like to be told, and so being shown is just a better teaching method anyway, and so we need to all practice that. So I want to thank you. We've come to the end of our interview, Sister Amir Rahman, and I want you to let the audience know how they can get your book, copy of your poems, and a copy of your book Unveiled, and hold it up and give the comments on how to reach you.
This is In My Reflection, A Closer Look. It's a compilation of my poetry. You can get it at Amazon.com, ArthurHouse.com, and BarnesandNoble.com. And if you want an autographed copy of it, you can PayPal me at brown_s_HUGAR@hotmail.com. This book costs $15. You can add additional $5 for shipping and handling, and I'll get that to you right away. Also, this is my book of Unveiled. It's a inspirational novel of empowerment and strength, and through the power of faith. It's also available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and arthurhouse.com. And also you can also get this book also is for $15. You can PayPal me at brown_s_hugar@hotmail.com. And this book also costs $15. And normally if you get a book that's autographed through me, I send you a copy of my CD, which has 7 different poems read by me. Thank you very much and have a blessed day. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and we thank you so much, and we want you to come back. And we'll probably have a little poetry corner. We have several poets in the community, and maybe we'll do some reading and just talk more about how we can just develop more poetry venues for our community to benefit from. So with that, we'd like to thank you for watching another edition of Reflections. I'm your host, Haja Habiba Shakir, Talkwa Productions. You've been watching us over www.usworld.tv. And the greeting we always give is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.